Welcome to Sustainable Stock, Reviving Legacy Genetics, the podcast that delves into the power of traditional cattle genetics and the ranchers bringing them back. We're returning to the tried and true practices that prioritize what truly works on the ranch. Each episode, we'll talk to ranchers who are rediscovering the methods that built strong, resilient, efficient, and fertile herds in the 1960s and 70s. These breeders are blending the best of the past with practical solutions for today's ranching world. Whether you're passionate about the future of ranching or curious about heritage genetics, this podcast is for you. Presented by Boss Sires. Tune in as we reconnect with the roots of the herd. Here's your host, Patrick Powers.
Hi, and welcome back to Sustainable Stock. Today I'm sitting down with Mark DeBoo of Diamond D Angus out of Valera, Montana. Did I say that correctly, sir?
Correct. Yes.
All right. I'll be honest, I don't really know Mark's story well. I've heard enough folks talk about his cattle to know he's worth listening to. He's been in the game a long time, and from everything I've seen, he's focused on building the kind of Angus that hold up where it counts. Not pampered, not overfed, just practical, proven genetics that do the job. I'm very much so looking forward to diving into this with you today, Mr. Mark. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
All righty. Well, let's just start with the basics. I would love to give you the opportunity to tell me who you are, about your operation there with Diamond D, and don't lose yourself in the cattle. A lot of producers have that habit. Let's hear who you are as well.
Well, I'm the third generation Angus producer here in Montana. My granddad started back in probably the 50s, and my dad got started in the 60s. Of course, me born in 1961, I didn't get involved with operation till probably the late 70s. But anyway, my father and mother both everything needed to be justified. Everything needed to earn its own keep, including the cattle. I have 5 sisters and 1 brother. So needless to say, we all needed to do our part, and cattle were just a part of that. And so anyway, going forward, my father, when things didn't work the way they were supposed to, the cow got left the place. And so generations after generations of that, my father, he taught me. I didn't, at a young age there, I didn't totally understand, me through the 80s, late 80s, I was trying to raise a family, and I didn't get very much salary. And anyway, so of course, most competition at that time was selling bulls for more than us. And I tell people that I would have, without the guidance of my parents, I would have probably messed things up. But with the guidance of my parents, and everything needed to make sense, and breed back every year. We have never kept anything that didn't breed back. And in order to breed back and be functional and be trouble-free, they needed to be structurally correct, feet and legs and udder-wise. And there was certainly a point there in the 80s there that my dad tried to follow some of the trends, and for a very short time, and in the late 80s, and it didn't take him long, because he knew what a good Angus cow was, and it didn't take him long to figure out that he was headed in a direction that he didn't like. So consequently, he at that time, the only place he knew to go, and he had some experience through my granddad, that through the Y program there, that he felt very comfortable, where at least he knew that they were kept straight Angus.
Yes, sir.
And that was looking back, there was probably other herds also there too, but the Y Angus, we felt very comfortable that they were kept straight Angus. And so we used quite a few Y bulls over the years, and then later, as I learned the AI, we we learned that maybe not all the Y bulls did all the right, or the same things, or the things we were looking for. And so anyway, hopefully we recognize the best in some of the Y lines there. We've used a lot of in more recent years, a lot of Lodge of Y, some Favor of Y, which Favor was a Lodge son.
That's wonderful. So y'all kind of had to honor cattle philosophy just out of function alone. It needed to be able to survive, and y'all had to be able to draw from that and form a living. And the best way you knew was what it allowed your grandfather and your father themselves.
Absolutely. I remember my dad talking about the livability. Of course, at that time when he was just getting started in the cattle business there, that he used some other than what his grandfather or what his father had that he either leased or bought from my grandfather. And at that time, the livability was night and day difference between if they had a sire from my grandfather, that it was huge difference, just the livability.
I love that we're this early in the conversation and you're already touching on concepts like forced function, just because you have to make a living, and a cow has to do its job for you to be able to do that. Correct.
Correct. Yep. That's and the cow calf operation, even today, it isn't any different today than it was 40 years ago. There, the cattle for cow calf operation, that cow herd is your factory, and it has to be functional and work out on the range. These modern cattle of today, that only last till they're 4 or 5 years old, and for whatever reason, they have lots of functional problems. Just don't work. They've been bred for EPD numbers, and they got great EPD numbers, but they don't stay functional, and they don't stay in production for long periods of time. We look at the traits like that. What we raise, we raise cattle for the cow calf operations.
Yes, sir. I do have a question for you. Where does Diamond D fall? What is the operation? Is it cow calf? Is it a seed stock producer? And what does each of those mean to you?
Well, we're a seed stock operation there, that there's different, I guess, different than most seed stock operations, in the sense there that we bred for function and longevity. Not that performance isn't important, because it is, but it don't need to be maximum performance. I've been told many times there, it's that cow that goes unnoticed until she's maybe 10 plus years old, that is actually making the commercial cattleman, the most profit. It's that cow that brings home a calf every year, that maybe an average calf every year, that does her job, does everything that she's asked, that stays sound, has good feet, good legs, good udder, calves out, is a good mother. That's the type of cow there that works and makes a profit in the cow calf operations.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, the seed stock operators, they try to raise bulls there that will land, that are extreme in something, and they raise them because they are extreme, and the extreme cattle breeding the most in any trait doesn't ever what the cow-calf operation is looking for, or what they need. They might be looking for it, but what they actually need to stay profitable. And the whole EPD game, they've done a wonderful job. Whether it be Angus or there's lots of breeds that have EPD numbers there and they've done a wonderful job promoting that whole numbers game. And but it doesn't work.
Yes, sir. Well, you're not the first seasoned cattleman I've spoken to that really highlights the avoidance of extremes. Y'all speak about extremes in a manner to where they're to be avoided. And in that same breath, the word longevity is always used. Is it because y'all witnessed these extremes fall apart, or do they not have that longevity along with them?
Anytime you breed for extremes, you cut the life short. When you're putting your emphasis towards an extreme, you're leaving behind other very important functional traits. For instance, in the Angus breed, they come up with a EPD number. Well, they didn't have a EPD number or any sort of stability or longevity number. At least in the Black Angus breed, they didn't have their for a very long time there, and they bred what I call terminal traits, and they've done a wonderful job, but they're terminal type cattle. They've produced the Angus breed. They try to make it look like what some of the big frame cattle looked like in the early days.
I'm excited to hear you use that terminology. I was hoping that I could have you define what the terminal cattle are. I'm very new to all these concepts.
Well, terminal is you get terminal when you're not focused in on trouble-free and longevity. More terminal traits, meaning that they are bred for the terminal market for meat, and when I say that, there's nothing wrong with that. We need lots of meat, but however, with that said, any time that they're bred for the best of the terminal traits, they're not focused in on the maternal traits. They can't be.
So there's a trade-off made.
Yeah, there is absolutely a trade-off made. So we have not. There's lots of terminal breeders out there, but obviously we have focused in more on the maternal. And you can take one of these maternal bred cows, moderate frame, that weighs maybe 1,200 pounds, 1,150 to 1,250 pounds. You could take her and breed her to a terminal bull and get that good terminal calf, and put it in whatever for the market for meat, whether it be in a feedlot or for grass finishing market or whatever, and have a wonderful animal. But however, that animal, one of the mistakes that's made is, that big nice animal there. If it's a female, they'll oftentimes a terminal bred animal, they'll save it as being a maternal animal, which they're not. The only way to make a maternal animal is have a maternal cow and breed her to a maternal bred bull, that has the maternal traits.
Well, I was hoping you could speak a little further on maternal function and how big a role it can play within your herd.
Well, it's huge. Well, like I've said before, the EPDs, at least in the past, they didn't measure anything other than terminal type traits.
Yes, sir.
People will argue, well, the milk, that they'll say because they call it a maternal trait. Well, you put too much milk in them, they don't breed back. And that would be the case with lots of terminal traits. They measure like weaning weight, EPD, and yearling weight, EPD. All of these are. It's a measurement of what I call terminal breeding.
Yes, sir.
So when you breed for maternal, you don't select for the most, and with the EPD program there, well, it's the same as any number. Even before EPDs, they had ratios and stuff, and the bigger the better. That's all your AI studs, and they're going around. They're buying them the most extreme. So if you're AI into the next hot bull of the month, you're most likely breeding for the most extreme that the AI people can buy. So.
Yes, sir. Well, turning our focus back inward towards Diamond D, what doesn't make the cut? What are some of your calling principles, sir?
Well, they certainly, if they don't breed, that's on top of the list. They got to have a calf every year to make the cow calf operation money. And then
Yes, sir.
if they don't breed, they don't stick around. If they got poor feet, that's obvious right there. They will be sold. Diamond D Angus is the only one in the United States. Now that there is some in some other countries, there New Zealand and the Pine Bank herd being one of them. There, but we just last year offered a foot guarantee. So if they develop bad feet, if it's a genetic thing, and develop bad feet, we'll replace the bull. And so
the first cattle sold with a mileage warranty, huh?
Yeah, there is no other breeder that I'm aware of doing that very same thing. Not saying that they couldn't. We're not the only ones that have bred for function and longevity.
No, but that really is worth something for an operation like yourself that has expressed longevity in that desired trait as well.
It is.
You're not only saying that I'm going to give you good feet, they're going to last longer than the other feet on your operation.
It does. Yes, absolutely. So, and I say there's other breeders that's been doing that for a long time, and that is absolutely true there. But there's darn few breeders out there that have been doing it breeding for function and longevity longer than what we have.
Yes, sir.
You can take a breeder like Shoshone Angus. They're however, they're not in business any longer, but they were breeding very functional cattle, and Larry Leonhardt was a very, very smart guy, so, but he has since passed. And so he one time said a quote to me, it's probably been 30 years ago there, that cattle always seem to have a problem that can be fixed with what they have today. So that's something that is stuck in my mind. For a very long time. I will never, till the day I die, I won't forget that. And he's absolutely right. Saying that that whether it be the AI stud or the AAA or whatever the association, whatever it may be, but they always have something there to sell to fix what they screwed up the generation before. And I just that in very few words that sums up everything there. So and he was one of my mentors. Like my dad. My dad was there every day. My dad and mom was there every day to teach me, Larry Leonhardt was there only, not saying I didn't value his opinion, but when I would call him or stop there, and we use bulls like the Shoshone 130, which was was the sire to our Melissa 824 cow there that turned out to be a wonderful cow. Which is the she is the mother to like our 27C, our E5H, and in later years the Great Plains 77U goes back to that Melissa cow family. One generation back, we created the mother of out of the 824 cow by Lodge of Y. So the daughter was a Lodge of Y, and they were wonderful cows.
That's good.
And they not only one of them wasn't, they all were. And that's what we try to do there. It isn't one individual. Everybody can raise one individual or something, or 10% or whatever to be perfect cows. Lots of people do that. Our goal is to have all of them, the whole herd, and really there's no reason that they can't be that way.
I like that, Mr. DeBoo. I agree. I really like that. The fact that you just rattled off some names of some cattle that were impressive and really stood out to you from years ago. But your final statement there was to speak about the herd as a whole. And I feel like a lot of producers could benefit by adopting that mentality.
Correct. Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, I feel very strongly about that there, well, you got all the, not that I'm opposed to any of the embryo work or any of that. I'm not opposed to it. However, the need to do that diminishes if you are doing the right thing. The need to do that diminishes because you don't have like one or two or three super cows in the herd there that you're going to collect embryos out of. It's like all of a sudden you got like 95% of them should be, if you're doing the right thing, should be worthy of collecting embryos out of them. So, which obviously you can't do that, but anyway.
But no, I not to contradict you at all. I mean, by all means, I have very limited education in this conversation space, but I view that more as an option for people to be able to take the shortcut to find themselves in a sustainable operation. Find a producer like yourself that has limited inputs and had this guiding philosophy laid down for generations and formed a herd around that. And although you can't offer embryo for each of your herd that is proven, if I can get a sample of one and have 5 or 6 of yours and start to build my own and get that jump start on it, I feel like it would cut years out of me learning how to walk. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You could, or anyone else could buy one particular bull from us, and they make great strides with that one bull, and it may be an average looking bull at the time of the sale, and
yes, sir.
It's just an example of what we sell.
Well, I was wondering if we could move into, obviously Montana is not easy country on cattle or people. I was wondering if you could tell me what it takes for a cow to be able to make it through y'all's weather, y'all's winters. Is there a lot of supplementation, or is this all cattle just putting in the work? Well,
we pull away most of those crutches there that you've heard people talk about, so the cold winters here, we calve when Mother Nature would calve. So we wean in late December around Christmas time or early January, depending on the weather. And after that, those cows, those prime age cows, should be able to survive on I'm not saying we don't feed any hay, but we feed substantially less hay, and zero lick tubs, zero crutches of any kind there. So
Yes, sir.
they need to be able to survive, and it can be 30 below, 40 below zero, and the wind blowing, and they do well, but
That's great. You talked about calving with nature there. I heard a producer the other day tell me that they let nature dictate their calving season. They watched the local deer population when they finally started having fawns on them, and that's when they've set their window. I thought that was a pretty inventive old cattleman's trick there.
yep, yep. It's that is absolutely right. In northern Montana, to calve with Mother Nature, do we calve? We actually start, the due date is the 1st of May. That's maybe a tiny bit earlier than what we should be there, but is what we have found. If you wait till start calving, say maybe the middle of May. The calves born in June, we have a hard time finding them. Sometimes if we have a good year, you have a hard time finding them, and you driving through the pasture, and they can get run over, or they're made, when they're less than 24 hours, they're hiding.
That's right.
In the tall grass, and they could get run over, or what predators can get them. So we maybe fudge that maybe just a little bit there, but anyway, it's a difficult time to know. There's baby deer being born there in June. We already know that.
Yeah. Well, Mr. DeBoo, my next question for you is, what makes Diamond D different? If someone's looking out on different cow herds and checking out operations, what do you feel we should highlight in this conversation to set you apart? What is it that makes Diamond D a special place in your heart?
Well, what makes it different is there that we do things different than most seed stock producers. Our philosophies are different. Our management of the land is probably different. It has as much to do with what do we do with this land to improve the soil health of the land. In later years, I have become more passionate. Not that I'm not passionate about the cattle also there, but I've also become very passionate about the soil health also there. So we do many steps there. We move cattle frequently, and things like that. We 100% forage develop all of our bulls, and this is a biggie right there. The bulls that'll be sold next December, they're coming 2-year-old bulls there, but they're being forage developed right now, and they're grazing, and we move them, almost every day. Sometimes we go 2 days without, and if you that ahead of time there, and you make a 2-day set rather than a 1-day set.
Yeah.
But
well, I hope you don't mind if I interrupt you there. I mean, just stopping for a second and reflecting on the fact that is a biggie. When you take something that is forage developed, it means when it's time to go to work, they can maintain that body without pouring anything to them. When they've had to make their own living, you don't have to offer any supplementation whenever it's time to put in the work on your pasture, correct?
It's huge difference. If everybody realized what difference was on a forage developed bull, they would all be buying forage developed bulls there. And if you normally feed corn or supplement to your cow herd, maybe it don't make any difference there. But for anybody that expects their cows, to survive on a limited, when I say limited, no lick tubs and no corn, none of this. If you expect your cattle to survive, why would you buy a bull that was developed that was fed anything other than forage?
Well, by giving them so little, you're giving them every tool they need for a future.
Yep.
Because they can go anywhere and get the same thing you gave them. If you gave them nothing but grass and good clean land, I don't know how you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We hear reports back all the time there of people buying bulls. You might have somebody a little bit on the fence of buying a forage developed bulls because you hear it every day. Well, we sell by the pound, and well that's a terminal statement that they're buying terminal bulls, and that's okay. But however, buying a bull that has been forage developed, if they buy a bull that is developed in a feedlot, and also buys a bull from us 100% forage developed, it's night and day difference when they come away from the pasture. When they go to the pasture, they say, well, that grain-fed bull looks better, which I don't argue that. They do. The fat sells, but that fat just melts off of them when they got to go to work. Which breeding season is, they got to go to work.
Yeah, it can look good all you want, but if it dries up and shrivels up after one breeding season and you've got to pull it back out of that pasture just so you can get it to look pretty to go out there again and dry up again, was it worth it?
Yeah. Well, and everything about the development of the bull, fertility is better, just all the way through the soundness, the structure, the feet quality. If they develop bad feet, that is one point there. If they develop bad feet and they've never had anything other than forage, it's genetics.
That's an excellent angle I never considered. That's you're foolproofing these cattle and your ability to actually see what's going on. When you strip it back to basics, you see what's expressed in genetics alone.
Absolutely. If you hear the statement all the time there that on a bull or something there that it was developed in a feedlot, and they said, well, that bull just ate too much. Nobody ever blames it on genetics. It can't be genetics. Well, the whole industry has failed on genetics on feed. It's atrocious, the feed quality and structure quality on cattle or bulls today, the mainstream today. So
yeah, well, I mean, when you eat clean, you feel clean. When you eat junk, you feel like junk. And
yeah, that's right.
We fall victim to the same thing. We're chasing all these problems with medication and supplementation, and a lot of it could probably come back to what are we putting into ourselves.
That's absolutely right.
Well, sir, I've got a note here about line breeding. I was wondering, it gets a bad rap, but your operation is stuck with it. Could you talk me through the benefits of it or the principles of it?
Absolutely. Line breeding, of course, yeah, you hear of all the bad things that can happen, and is what I've been taught, and is absolutely right, is if something bad happens, it's going to happen in your own herd, meaning our herd, the herd that does the line breeding. And I have also heard that nothing will pop out. There's no genetic defect that will pop out that was not there to begin with. And that's absolutely true also. So there used to be a demand for line bred bulls there that they would use, and they would buy the line bred bulls and before the days of DNA, and they would use those on cattle for testing their herd, if they thought they had a genetic defect there. But anyway, the DNA tests that they have today for genetic defects are important. Yes, they are important, but however, they don't test for unknown defects. So the unknown, and to be honest with you, there could be more, and there probably is more unknown defects than there is known defects. So if it's an unknown defect, they can't come up with a DNA test for it anyway, because they don't know what the markers are of it anyway. So
at its base, it's a really good tool in your arsenal for the greatest expression of desired traits, and you'll see any undesirables that could be there as well.
It is absolutely. So when somebody comes and buys a line bred bull from us, and uses it in what I call an outcross situation, they're going to get they're going to get hybrid vigor. So that bull or female, whatever it produces, will outproduce what he did himself. And he will also be more consistent.
Well, I've asked other producers, sir, do you feel like the marketplace highlights one sector too greatly? Are we too bull focused?
Are we too bull focused? Maybe. In some cases that would be true. So usually the bull gets the blame. The owner owns the cows, and he goes and buys a bull, and if he has problems, the bull gets the blame. So being too bull focused, that could be true in some cases. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you have an opportunity to make a large impact in the genetics of your herd. But if you're starting with a bad base on your side, it's wrong of you to lay the blame at the bull's feet.
That would be correct there. So, but we've had producers buy a line bred bull from us and say that they've made as much progress in one generation what they predicted would take at least 2 generations to accomplish. So
that's just that greater expression.
They're making a great expression with the bull that they're buying from us.
Well, Mr. DeBoo, I knew I had to have you on today after speaking with a couple of our distributors. As soon as your breeder page launched on the Boss Sires website, we had people express interest. Our distributor in Mexico, Jesse Colon, and our distributor in Alaska, Haley Edwards, were both very excited to see your name tied to Boss Sires, Diamond D. I was wondering if you could reflect on just how far-reaching your genetics have been.
Well, they've been very far. We've sold, I think, in 40 states in the United States. Plus, we know we've had genetics go into Mexico, South America, Argentina, Chile, Peru, Australia. Places like this, they're very different environments. I've gotten pictures from bulls out of semen that they bought in Australia, and they're in a very, very different climate there, and so we do know that our genetics will work well in other climates also. I believe they're more adapted. Not saying that there isn't different breeds, different herds that would do well also there, but the Heinz 57, the next bull of the month, if that's the direction you chose to go in, to me it's there is no, it is not a surprise there that your genetics do not work well in certain different climates.
Yeah.
So because they're just not adapted to that, and
I love that you're willing to speak that way, sir. That you're proud of the fact that you're far reaching, but you also offer a word of advisement that they might pay attention to local adaptation as well.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's wonderful that you're mindful of that.
Yeah.
Well, sir, can I ask for a couple words of advice for young or new breeders or producers entering the cattle market or trying to take their operation to the next step? If you could offer words of wisdom, what would they be?
Well, one word of advice would be there that shy away from extremes. I know we touched on this earlier there, but if you shy away from all extremes, anything that is the most in something, the reason why it is the most in something is because they probably left something else behind to achieve that most in
Yes,
something.
sir.
So there's nothing wrong with middle of the road type genetics if it's truly the middle of the road in all traits there, and that goes for performance too. You know, so performance, fertility. Well, it's the reason why they've lost fertility. Hey, there's no reason for the mainstream seed stock operation to measure fertility, or at least in the past there isn't anyway. Not when they're chasing EPD numbers. When you're chasing EPD numbers, to get the greatest and the best of a certain number is, in the past, that is sold for the most money.
I like that you've spoken on it in that manner. That's a topic of conversation that comes up pretty often, especially in our newest episode of Shooting the Bull, is we talked about the assumptions within cattle and the cattle market, and you assume the capability of cattle that they can survive on forage and they can make a calf every year. But as you've
Right.
just reflected, when you start chasing these extremes, those assumed things have the opportunity of being left behind. And I think it's what's got us in the pickle we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had the advantage being taught by my father and my mother there, though, that's told me that years ago, and it isn't any different today than it was 40 years ago. They were breeding for the most in whatever was popular back then, and they are doing it today there. And fortunately, I had some good teachers. You hear it today. You see it posted. That they are selling the only the best of the best, and so in certain whatever the buzzword is of the day, so
Yes, sir.
but one thing that I say, what made a good cow in 1970 will still make a good cow today, and
Well,
and we haven't really changed. They still eat grass. They do things the way they did back then. Have we got them to perform better than in 1970? Yeah, absolutely. They should have, but they also have got other traits that they isn't appealing to me. And that would be they've lost the fertility and then the feed quality and things like that. So
yeah, you can't move in a greater direction without also recognizing the loss that happened along the way.
correct.
And it's hard to market, and it's hard to market loss. It's easier
Correct.
to market gain. Well,
Yeah.
to further those statements, what is your greatest example of longevity? Anytime I can think to remember in these interviews to ask these producers I'm speaking with, what's the oldest cow you've had? How many calves did she give you?
Well, we've had cows live as old as 22 years old there. Right now, we're using two different sires out of that they would be a daughter of that 22-year-old lived to be 19 years old. And we saved the last two sons that she produced there, but she's just an example of. She isn't the only example. Because I firmly believe if you want a cow to stay in production for a long period of time, you have to load that pedigree with cows that stayed in production for a long period of time. So we have many cows there that stayed in the herd. 22 years is the most extreme that we have. And does the cow calf operation need them to stay in the herd for 22 years? I'm sure not. But if you buy a bull that has that same genetics or the same mindset in there, that the cattle last till 22 years old, if they last till 10 years old, if they run in really rough conditions, if they last till 10 years old, that might be an accomplishment.
Well,
So,
just because I live on a paved road doesn't mean I'm not going to buy the 4-wheel drive.
correct. That's correct.
I think about the investment of that. I mean,
Yeah.
you just told
It's
me you have a twice proven. She didn't do it, but her daughter did as well.
Yeah. Well, and by having a pedigree loaded, and that's one thing when I go to use a bull, or I don't buy bulls very often from other people. We usually use our own bulls back, or I'll use semen there. But anyway, that is the first thing. I don't go to EPD numbers. I go to a pedigree, and it has to have a pedigree loaded, like I say, loaded with that cow that's stayed in production for a long time, has that long history.
Yes, sir. Well, I have a potentially dumb question to ask you. You spoke about retaining some of those last born of that very long lived bloodline. Would that put a greater value, emphasis of value of that cow or that the cattle produced, the ones in later years, because it is an affirmation of that longevity? Is that
Well,
is the 17th calf more valuable to you than the third?
uh, some might think it is there, but it kind of depends on what the pedigree reads also. If that pedigree is loaded with good old cows, there's nothing wrong with using a bull out of the 3-year-old there, as long as it's got a proven pedigree there of cows lasting that long, because we already know what that bull will produce.
Yes, sir.
But however, if you get into, there would be certain herds that absolutely, that to me, that would be worth more to be able to see that. But there again, do they have to be that much longevity?
No, no. I mean, the average operation doesn't need that. But
No, they don't.
if you
But
could and you have the same level of buying power, why wouldn't you?
right, but I look at it as being the seed stock's responsibility to, if you're raising what's called maternal genetics, is to raise that trouble-free bull that's going to produce you that trouble-free cow. And
Well, you're not
so
the first one to reflect on that. Good bulls make good daughters.
yeah, that's absolutely right.
Well, to shift the conversation a little bit, this is a podcast brought to you by Boss Sires, so I have to ask, what made you say yes to Boss Sires, sir? What made it feel like Diamond D could work with Boss Sires?
Well, similar philosophies. The longevity and function in the cow herd. It doesn't really matter what breed we're talking about there, but from what I understand, Boss Sires promotes and sells semen from the same philosophies and that we have.
Yes, sir. But we've kind of skimmed over it and we spoke on it a little bit, but would you say that the world of cattle is in danger of losing fertility as a whole?
Yes, the mainstream cattle, especially, not only are we using bulls that never see a cow, the most extreme bulls being sold in the glossy sire directory. So after generations of them being, never exposed to a bull, never, and they're bought on EPD numbers, raised out of a cow that probably can't have a calf on her own. So a cow reaches 4 years old and she doesn't get bred. So what do they, they spend a lot of money on her. So what do? Her EPDs say should be a good cow, so they put her in a flush program. So then they sell a son to in the glossy semen catalog, and so there's no question that certain aspect that we're losing fertility.
It's so funny that you referenced the glossy catalog there. There are quite a few boss sires producers who make that same reference and get irritated with that because unfortunately that's what makes it out to the world. And
Yeah.
people see that catalog and see the shining thing on the hill and they assume it's the best of the best. Little they know that lineage is fraught with fertility issues and bad feet, but they managed to find one expression of it that they could shine up well enough to put in a picture on the catalog, and that's what you're going to end up getting your hands on.
Yeah, yeah. A good feeder and a good photographer can do wonders if they're a good promoter.
Sir, you just found your quote of the day out of that one right there.
So
That is good. I like that. Well, I ask everybody that comes on the podcast, and I have to ask you too, what do you feel is the moral obligation of the cattlemen to the land, the industry, and the next generation?
Well, I feel a large moral obligation there to take, not only do what my dad taught and what my granddad did, and also on the land itself. I can look back and my dad was always probably a steward of the land there, but I've even taken it another step even further there, not because he would not have. It's probably more of because we have learned. We have learned, what to do and what not to do there for the land, and that's one of the reasons we move cows daily, and not only for the financial benefits, but for the improvement of the soil health too. We talk about different crutches and stuff, and that brings up one thing. We haven't used any parasite control on any of our cattle there for probably 6 or 7 years, something like that, and so. But we not that we don't use parasite control. We use by moving the cattle. It is a form of not only parasite control. We're doing other things also there, but there's many things we're doing, and Ivamec and the conventional parasite control is not part of it anymore. It used to be, but it's not anymore.
Have you moved in that direction because you're tired of the bykill of it ruining other insects' interaction with your soil and building soil health? Was that the main focus of that decision?
That's one of many. Not only your soil benefits, but your cattle also benefit. If you want to sell cattle to a spot there that is important, which it is increasingly important to people there, that that is a good thing.
And don't lose sight of the easiest benefit, the cost savings of not having to do that.
Yeah.
Putting that work back on the cattle.
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, sir, I do enjoy the fact that you spoke on y'all's relationship with the land throughout this interview. I mean, you produce a product of the land, so why wouldn't you hold the land at a point of reverence and and honor the relationship you have with it?
Correct. Yep.
Well, sir, final takeaways for today. If there was one message you hope that got out to other producers or like-minded individuals or someone dabbling with the concept of regenerative agriculture or sustainable cattle, what do you hope that message is for them today?
Well, I guess I just hope that people, it gets recognized, and it already is becoming more accepted. I should say, not only our genetics, our way of thinking on the soil and the parasite control and all those type of things that that go together. And so
I think you highlighted that well, as you've been able to prove beyond your father, and it was solely based in the readily available education materials. And those things keep becoming more and more prevalent through social media and web-based training. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most. As ease of access becomes greater, our relationship with the land will become greater.
Correct.
Well, I think that's going to do it for today's episode, and that's a big thanks to you, Mr. Mark DeBoo, for taking some time and sharing a bit of your story, and for sticking to those breeding philosophies that were laid down by your family, and really holding true to those and not cutting any corners. If y'all want to learn more about Mr. DeBoo's program and Diamond D Angus, you can go to diamonddangus.com or head to his breeder page over at bossires.com. All of those will be linked in the show notes. As always, thank y'all for listening, and don't forget to ranch with purpose and
breed for the future.
Thank you for tuning in to Sustainable Stock, Reviving Legacy Genetics. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share. Join us next time as we continue exploring the legacy and future of cattle ranching. For more information, visit us at bosssires.com. That's BOSSIRES.com, or connect with us on Facebook. Until then, stay rooted in common sense and connected to the herd.